the coin toss. Because if you remember the botched coin toss between the Packers and Cardinals during the playoffs?
It's happened a few times, yeah.
And in this case now, here's the new rule. The coin has to turn over at least once in the air, and nothing can interfere with it. Or the ref has to flip it over. Surprisingly, there was no rule to cover that before, which caused that mess in the Packers-Cardinals playoff game last year.
We can't even do a coin toss properly.
No, without trouble. Here's actual audio from the game.
Right, now you call it in the air. No catching. No. Right, flip it. Heads. Tails.
No, it hit the table.
So what? Interference. You can't count that.
That was an isolated microphone out in the field. I'm pretty sure that's what it was. John Zogby on the line right now, Zogby Analytics. John, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Bill.
Crazy world of politics. But, unfortunately, the crazy world influences the crazy world of politics. What do you think of the both candidates, Trump and Hillary, and the reaction to Orlando?
A very horrible and a very difficult situation for a candidate to be in. On one hand, you'd think that just expressing remorse, would be sufficient, and to make plans to take a higher ground would be sufficient. But we're so polarized that something like this becomes an issue, and that each candidate feels compelled to use that terrible situation to appeal to his or her base.
Yeah.
And so, in Trump's position, he's exploiting that. Radical Islamism is that has to be the term that has to be used. Otherwise, you are not legitimate. In Hillary's instance, calling for tighter gun control, but then backing off, 24 hours later, and cowing to Donald Trump and using the term Islamic Jihad and Islamic radicalism and so on. It cheapens, what is otherwise a sad moment, and takes our eyes and our minds off of what we really should be thinking about, which is, at least for now, mourning. Really the victims of this terrible thing.
And we all, every situation we want to try to make sense of it and figure out a solution so it can never happen again. These are complicated issues. I'm not sure that we can prevent a deviant from going into picking a soft target, a place that's easy to go into and with little resistance. How do we prevent that in a free America? How do you prevent it?
Well, for starters, do you have a constitutional right to have a military rifle? Do you have a constitutional right to purchase either over the internet or, for that matter, through a magazine or a gun show, a weapon that pulverizes living things? I'm not sure that that sort of thing is covered in the Second Amendment, and I personally am, gun control. I'm going to be very honest with you. Personally, I've come to grips with the fact that guns are a part of American culture, and that those who believe in the Second Amendment firmly believe in it. But I just can't believe that includes the right to possess something as deadly that has absolutely no other purpose to it. I mean, that's not for self-defense. That's not for hunting.
Well, it's for sport. I mean, it is. It's target shooting, and it is. And I'm a Second Amendment person here. I just don't know if you can. At what point? Where do we end? Right? If you start limiting the ability for people to, which, by the way, the majority of people who own those weapons. And by the way, they're not really military weapons. They're made to look that way. But the majority that own those are law-abiding citizens. Every once in a while, you get a quack that turns up and does something like this.
For sport shooting? Do you have a right to a limited tactical nuclear device as well?
Well, that I don't think we do.
All right.
I don't want to get in this debate with you, John.
It's a brave
All right.
move getting into a
would be
debate with John Zogby.
I don't want to debate John Zogby here today. We're on different sides. I don't want to debate you on it. I do want to ask you your thoughts on the issue of the NY22. We had a big debate yesterday.
Yeah.
Another one was held last night. What are your thoughts on this? The Republican side of this campaign.
Yeah, really interesting race, and the kind of race we've seen before. Between, I'm not going to say necessarily a moderate Republican, along the lines of Sherry Bowler, or for that matter, Richard Hanna, but someone more moderate than Claudia Tenney. Claudia really carving out her position with the Tea Party and more conservative, social conservative elements in the party. This is classic for this district, no matter where the lines have been drawn. This is the one way to defeat a moderate candidate in a Republican primary. Some of you may recall that Sherry Bowler had a few close calls over his 22 years, and mainly coming from that hard right. That's what we're seeing here. My gut sense tells me this is a very, very close race. Geography has something to do with it. A lot of money being spent, but probably too close to call at this point.
Yeah. And it's interesting. What are your thoughts on 3 in the race? That really does complicate it. And we're talking about just the primary here, because then there's a Democrat and an independent that will move into the mix. But you've got Phillips in the Binghamton area, and then Wells, more central New York, along with Claudia Tenney. Is there a split vote issue going on here? What do you think?
Well, there could be. In Phillips' case, he's an impressive young man. He's run before, but he's a teacher. But as you point out, he represents geography. The bulk of the district, the population of the district, is up here in Oneida, Herkimer, Madison counties. But there's a chunk down there, to make a difference. From what I gather thus far, Phillips has not really connected very much in the polls. However, in a very, very close race, even 3, 5, 7, 10% by Phillips can change the nature of the race, and I think probably draw support more away from Steve Wells than from Claudia Tenney. I think Claudia Tenney has, just given the history of the Republican Party in this area, 40% of the vote just for showing up. Kind of like the old SATs, if you showed up Saturday morning with a yellow lead number 2 pencil, you got 200 points. I think she gets 40% just by being on the ballot.
Is there I see it as the establishment of the Republican Party. There's an anti-Claudia vote there. Mm-hmm. And I agree with you. I think what could be going on is the anti-Claudia vote is split between Wells and Phillips, and Claudia Tenney marches on to victory.
That could very well happen. Wells, of course, is very well financed, getting support as well, and will get support if he wins the primary from the NRCC. That's the congressional arm of the Republican Party that runs their campaigns. No love lost there between the party establishment, D.C. or New York, for that matter, and Claudia Tenney. But then Claudia has these the variety of these super PACs, and we're catching an awful lot of television advertising, aren't we?
No doubt about it. There's a lot of TV money being spent. As always, John, we appreciate it. John Zogby, Zogby Analytics. Thanks for coming on.
My pleasure.
All right.